Up on Network Africa. Prime Minister of Sudan Abdallah Hamdok survives assassination attempt after an attack on his convoy. Egypt records first coronavirus death in Africa as Nigeria and Tunisia confirms its second case. Plus, a number of soldiers injured after militants attack an army base in Niger. Hello and welcome to the first edition of the program for the week. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin this week with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend, from Egypt to the protests in Algeria and also an explosion in Tunisia. Here is the summary of weekend stories.
Egypt has confirmed 33 new cases of coronavirus on Saturday on a River Nile cruise ship. None of the new cases were showing symptoms of the virus, Health Minister Hala Zayed told reporters. Of 12 suspected cases among the crew announced on Friday, 11 tested negative, she said, but would nevertheless be quarantined for 2 weeks. Tourism is a key sector in Egypt's economy and an important source of foreign exchange. The ship arrived in the southern Egyptian city of Luxor on Thursday from Aswan, further upstream, and was towed in a position outside the city and placed under quarantine. Shrugging off coronavirus concerns, thousands of Algerian protesters vowed to press on with their movement against the country's ruling elite as they took to the streets of the Algerian capital on Friday for the 55th week. Mass protests have been taking place in the capital Algiers and other cities twice a week over a year, with protesters demanding political change. An Algerian health official said last week that it was not planning on banning the protests in the country over the coronavirus outbreak. Algeria has 17 reported cases. At least one militant on a motorbike blew himself up outside the U.S. Embassy in Tunisia on Friday, wounding 5 police officers. Local media reports the incident in the country as the most serious apparent attack since the summer. Embassy officials confirmed the attack in a tweet on its official Twitter feed and urged people to avoid the area. A scorched, damaged motorbike and a damaged police vehicle could be seen a few meters from the embassy's main gate. On Sunday, Ethiopian residents who lived near the crash site of Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 held a memorial service in honor of the victims that died almost a year ago. Escorted by men on horsebacks, Bishfortu village elders walked on the crash site, prayed and poured traditional brew on the ground in a ritual they said was their way to mark the end of a mourning period. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed in that open field 6 minutes after takeoff from Addis Ababa, the Ethiopian capital, on March 10, 2019, killing all 157 people on board and sparked a chain of events that will negatively impact one of the world's biggest airline companies. Bishoftu residents said it felt akin to mourning their relatives despite not knowing any of the crash victims.
So our main stories now. Citizens in Sudan have been celebrating in the streets after their prime minister survived an assassination attempt. Abdallah Hamdok was traveling through Khartoum when there was a roadside explosion. His vehicle was damaged as well as several others. The government says it was a targeted attack and investigations have begun. In a tweet after the incident, Mr. Hamdok assured the people of Sudan that he is safe and in good shape. Mr. Hamdok was appointed to head Sudan's transitional government last August, a few months after the overthrow of longtime President Omar al-Bashir. The political situation in Sudan remains precarious after last year's political transition led to many once powerful individuals, especially in the military, being sidelined. Well, let's get more on this story from the VOA's journalist Naba Mohideen from Khartoum. Hello, Naba. Thank you so much for speaking to us. What more details can you give us on the attack? Do we know of the Prime Minister's location at this time?
The attack happened this morning at 9 o'clock near the federal prison where the Prime Minister lives. What eyewitnesses say, while he was moving his car and the guard's car moving from his house to the Nile Street to the office, passing by the federal prison, 3 cars bumped at the same time. There was a press release by Hamdok's office say he is safe, and right now he's in his office in Nile Street, very close to the palace.
Right, so I imagine that a lot of reactions will be trailing this. What reactions have we seen on this assassination attempt, especially among citizens and even the international community?
Of course, this is a new challenge added to the total of the challenges that face the transitional government, from a declining economy, not progressing peace talks, and hampered democratic change. It affects the economy in different ways and affects the situation in Sudan, because nobody can predict what will happen if this assassination succeeded or happened again, like the attempt happened again. Nobody can predict what will happen in Sudan, especially that this government came after a long time revolution and after getting rid of the 30-year autocratic rule. In another way, it affects the economy. The Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok himself is trying to build ties for Sudan with the countries and take it out of the isolation, getting use of his personal relationship as he was Deputy Director of UN Commission to Africa, is trying to build good relationships with Germany, with European countries, trying also to take Sudan out of SST list. And so this will affect the economy as he is trying to get access to the international fund and to take the economy out of this decline.
Right, and are there any pointers as to who may be behind this attack, and how is the government dealing with the situation at this time?
The reaction was big, spontaneous, and surprising. People gathered from different places in the site where the bomb attack took place, and they were condemning what happened and asked the government to take an action and to know who did it and to investigate immediately and to punish the accused people after the investigation. People were so angry and chanting for the Prime Minister. People believe that this will affect the democratic change if the trial succeeded in killing the Prime Minister. So they were so angry and blocked the streets with barricades and burning tires. Until now, there is calls for million-person marches to push the government to investigate the accidents to make sure that it will not happen again. Internationally, some neighboring countries like Ethiopia and Egypt issued press releases saying, condemning what happened and saying that it's a big concern for Sudan and for the neighboring countries, this assassination trial.
All right, Naba Mohideen, VOA's journalist in Khartoum, thank you so much for speaking to us. Nigeria's Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire, has confirmed a second case of the coronavirus infection in the country. The minister says the newly confirmed case is a contact of the index case and not an importation into the country. But there is no cause for alarm as the situation is under control. He says the patient, who tested positive on March the 8th, has been in isolation in the last 2 weeks and is now under quarantine. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has also posted a message on its social media handle announcing the confirmation of the new case in Ogun State, southwestern Nigeria.
Contact tracing and monitoring in respect of the coronavirus index case presently receiving treatment in Lagos has been diligently and conscientiously pursued since the 27th of February, when the case was first diagnosed. As you know, 40 persons in Ogun and 20 in Lagos are under isolation and have remained free of any symptoms since then. Nevertheless, the Federal Ministry of Health, following best practice, decided to test these persons for the possible presence of coronavirus in their systems. On the 8th of March, scientists confirmed the presence of coronavirus in one of the contacts. It is my duty, therefore, to announce a new case of coronavirus disease in Nigeria, and the newly confirmed case is an Ogun State contact of the index case, but it has no significant clinical symptoms. This brings the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Nigeria today to 2. Since the beginning of the outbreak in China and subsequent spread to other countries, one of the important response strategies at the containment stage has been to identify all contacts, ensure their strict isolation, and follow up daily with checks for any symptoms of the disease.
Egypt has recorded its first coronavirus death. It's a German tourist in Egypt. He becomes the first fatality of COVID-19 to be recorded in Africa. The 60-year-old had arrived in Egypt a week ago and complained of a fever. He was taken to a hospital in the Red Sea resort of Hurghada for treatment, where he was diagnosed with coronavirus. Local media reports that his breathing was affected by acute pneumonia. The patient died after refusing to be transferred to an isolation ward. And well, like Nigeria, Tunisian authorities have confirmed the country's second case of the coronavirus. According to a statement by the health ministry, the latest patient is a 65-year-old Tunisian man who returned from Italy. He has been quarantined at a university hospital. The first patient, also a Tunisian man who entered the country through Italy, but in this instance by boat, is said to be improving but remains under observation in a hospital in the resort city of Sousse. Earlier this month, Tunisia suspended its passenger ferry service from the northern Italian city of Genoa a few days after the first case of coronavirus was confirmed. For Uganda, the country is asking travelers who refuse to self-quarantine to go back home. 22 foreigners have been asked to return to their home countries after rejecting to isolate themselves on arrival for a business forum. Uganda's Health Minister Jane Ruth Akeng said the 22 travelers had arrived from Category 1 countries deemed high risk in the ongoing coronavirus outbreak. The ministry has categorized Italy, Iran, South Korea, France, China, Germany and Spain as countries whose citizens have to undergo self-quarantine for 14 days, even if they do not have coronavirus symptoms. The 22 travelers were informed of the self-quarantine requirement on their arrival at Entebbe International Airport. However, they refused to observe the rule and instead opted to return home. Uganda is hosting a 2-day business forum that is being attended by delegates from Europe. The forum organizers have posted a security update on their website asking that those planning to attend follow the Ministry of Health's guidelines. Well, in the meantime, here are the latest numbers of confirmed coronavirus cases in Africa. Egypt has 48 cases, recording its first death on the continent. Algeria has 17 cases, but that has not stopped thousands of Algerian protesters who vowed to press on with their weekly movements against the country's ruling government. Senegal has 4 cases, South Africa 3, Nigeria, Tunisia, Morocco and Cameroon all have 2 cases, with Togo having only 1. You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Still to come on the program. Matching to the beat of her own drum, a Kenyan percussionist breaks gender taboo by playing drums publicly. Please stay with us.